Walk me through what those conversations were like to shift from, all right, grow, blitzkrieg and blitz scale to like, wait, we have to make these and lose these battles. And obviously, one of these battles is, again, guys, there's always certain levers or metrics that matter in any startup. Obviously, there's burn. So what is burn? Is your OPEX. How much are you spending month on month to keep this thing afloat, whatever you're spending on? And then there's the MRR, monthly recurring revenue, that basically offsets that. If your MRR is more than your burn, that means you're profitable. If that gap is bigger and your burn is bigger than your MRR, you're in a hell of a lot of trouble, because that means you're losing money month on month. And what was those conversations like, and how? And one thing that you mentioned, Rexy, you moved fast, which is key, because we also got hit by that, and I'll tell you guys what later, but at a very, very small scale. But we almost died in Podcast Network Asia, but we made the right cut at the right time, just in the nick of time. But for you guys, you did this already, and you still had enough hay in the barn, right, to survive the winter. What were those conversations like? And then walk us through the hardest steps that you had to go through then.
I guess one of the key things was, for us, we actually had a quarter where we were profitable.
Wow.
In September 2020. MRR was around $2 million a month in revenue, and we were a profitable company, right?
Wow.
And so imagine you go from that to 3xing that in less than a year in MRR. But then, to your point, as things were shifting and you start noticing the burn going up, the good news though is we were able to go back and review the metrics at the time and say, okay, this is how many creators were going live. This is how how many of our most engaged users. And I think that's one of the most important things when building a sustainable business, is really looking at where your highest LTV customers are, and really identifying the particular behaviors, and then really taking a hard look at your product and really understanding what we were actually delivering in terms of value to that to those high lifetime value users in our community. And I guess the implication there then is, okay, if we have to get back to profitability again in an environment where, let's go through a worst case scenario where your investor's saying, hey, whatever you raise, that's all you're going to have.
Wow.
Right? So when you go through an exercise where you say, okay, well, if we're only going to have whatever's left in our bank account to run the business, there's an implication where, oh, wow, maybe we might have to go back to that older time when the company was a lot smaller.
Right.
Or where the company was a lot more lean, and those types of things.
How big was the team at this point when you had this decision?
What, around 500?
Holy crap. Yeah. 500 people. How do you even manage? I'll ask you guys later.
Yeah.
How you ran a 500-man company. Whew. And then at that point, all right, you had to make you had to make the thing. So again, easily, guys, if you're talking about the highest things on any burn, it's always going to be rent, whatever, as one of these things, but always in any company, it's always going to be salaries. So you got to make some cuts. Was that one of the things that you instantly, all right, we got to stay leaner and really make let some people go? Or were there any other stuff that you had? All right, wait, we can't afford to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, that was the last thing we wanted to touch. We went through marketing. We went through product costs. Again, having a social media / entertainment company, the content. So very similar. We were like looking at, okay, other companies who had to cut back on content. So for them, like a Netflix, right? They would have to cancel shows and those types of things. So in our case, some of our more expensive creators, we would actually have to cut those contracts. So I think maybe it was those types of things where we really had to exhaust everything. Tech costs is actually one of our biggest things before we actually had to go through that exercise of cutting people.
Wow.
And when you arrive at that point, there's never a good way to doing it. It's always the toughest decision. I would say that that was a time where I just couldn't. Yeah, I mean that was actually I remember after the first cut, that's when I knew I was telling the guys, I was like, hey, I think I want to resign. Like that's how bad you feel. But I was able to really say, okay, well, how about I'll just not take a salary until we break even again, right? Those types of things. So those types of hard decisions where you had to really align yourself with your particular principles and remind yourself why you started the company in the first place. Asking yourself a lot of those questions to be able to arrive at that really hard decision to, cut the team. So then it goes back to planning and strategy. It's like, okay, well, we've identified a particular strategy to become sustainable again and be profitable again. And so when you actually built out that strategy, entire teams who were not part of that strategy ended up being affected. And then that's when you start having to go through that grueling process of like, okay, the severance package, the mental health support, what were all the different things? It was just like the whole through package. One of the things that actually kept my passion going was investing in some of our alumni. So some of our alumni,
Wow.
because they have such a big severance package, I was able to invest in their startup idea.
Wow.
We because of the community, a lot of the people that you've interviewed, we were able to find jobs for a lot of, with the CEOs of other startups and say, hey, are you guys hiring? Really trying our best to find a soft landing.
It's amazing.
Those types of things where, you're losing a lot of sleep and trying to find a place. Good news, I do think is, I know that a lot of our engineers were able to find jobs very particularly quickly because there's still a high demand for developers.
Yep.
And those
And
types
you're
of things.
ex-Kumu at that point, right? You're
Yeah,
the top-notch
exactly.
product. Yeah.
So I think those are the types of things. It's just really, definitely, talking to Liza, one of our investors, we said it was a pain threshold increasing year where you go through this deep psychological challenge. And, we were actually, Brian Koo, one of our investors, actually had dinner with us and talked about the importance of leadership in that context, to be present. And I think that was one of the things I remember, the first time I did break down in tears during that first layoff was actually we both cried, was when we had to lay off someone who had the Kumu tattoo on their body.
Oh my God.
Like those types of things. And I think when you go through that experience and just making sure you're present, hugging them and being there and keeping in touch with them and writing the recommendation letters or investing in their startup idea or finding a job for them. I think that, for anyone who's ever presented with a really incredible hard task of letting someone go because of things that are outside of your control, I do think that it is really important to be present there,
Thank you so much for watching Hustleshare on YouTube. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel to get more content like this. And to get the full audio episodes of Hustleshare and Founders Only, subscribe to our podcasts at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.